Welcome, delegates, to Track 3, Pedagogy and Literature. Let us welcome the first presenter, Nur Shasha Shazwani binti Abdul Aziz, with a final year project titled The Use of Questioning Strategies to Elicit Students' Responses During Online Teaching and Learning in ESL Classroom.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and greetings everyone. I am Nur Shasha Shazwani, a final year student from UPSI, and today I am going to present my final year project, and the title is The Use of Questioning Strategies to Elicit Students' Responses During Online Teaching and Learning in ESL Classroom. The issue or problem that has inspired me to come up with this research or study is because of the students' lack of participation and also responses during online teaching and learning. This study aims to determine the types of questioning strategies used by the teacher to elicit students' responses during online teaching and learning, and to identify the purposes of implementing questioning strategies during online teaching and learning in ESL Classroom. For the research questions, there are two research questions that need to be answered, and they are: what are the types of questioning strategies used by the teacher during online teaching and learning? And what are the purposes of implementing questioning strategies during online teaching and learning? This study was conducted based on the Action Research Cycle, and there are 4 steps in Action Research Cycle, and they are planning, action, analyze, and also conclude. And all the steps were done by the researcher in order to complete this study. This study revolved around 26 Form 1 students with lower to intermediate level of proficiency from a public secondary school in Kelantan. There are 2 instruments that the researcher had used to conduct this study, and they are the teacher's reflective entry and also the transcription of the video recording during teaching practice 1. The data then analyzed using the thematic analysis method of qualitative data. Findings from this research found that research question 1 and research question 2 were answered successfully, and the findings found that there are 4 types of questioning strategies used by the teacher to elicit students' responses during online teaching and learning, and they are simplification, rephrasing, repetition, and also probing. But among the 4 types of questioning strategies, the most prominent and the most frequent types of questioning strategies used by the teacher during online teaching and learning in the classroom are simplification and also rephrasing. For the second research question and also objective, the researcher had found there are 5 purposes of implementing questioning strategies during online teaching and learning in the classroom. And the first one is to engage the students in the lesson or in the topic of the lesson. The second one is to check the students' readiness. The third one is to help the student expand their ideas during the lesson. The fourth one is to manage the classroom, and the last one is to help the students recall the information from the past lessons. As for the limitation, this study or research could be more insightful if the researcher could apply the techniques or strategies with different students of different level of proficiency in order to compare the outcomes from the techniques or strategies applied in the classroom. In conclusion, applying questioning strategies in the classroom is very important for the teacher and also for the students. Last but not least, I want to express my greatest gratitude to my lecturers and also my supervisor for helping me to complete this final year project. That's all from me. Thank you so much for listening.
Next presenter, Nuradila binti Matahir with her final year project titled The Use of Storyboard as Visual Medium in the Learning of Speaking Skills.
It is tempting, even natural, to want to present the material exactly how you like to receive it. But if you do this, you may be reaching only a small number of students. In reality, students receive and process information in a variety of ways. Teachers may reach more students by varying the ways they present material and offering multiple entry points for different language skills. In this video, I would like to talk about the use of storyboards as the visual medium in the teaching of speaking skills. By the way, my name is Ardila Binti Matahir and thank you for tuning in. So, in the teaching of speaking skills for narrative speech, we want students to understand how should they respond to the speaking task, putting the contents in bulk or organizing them in a storyboard. In the teaching of narrative speech, students are usually required to tell a story. This genre of speech often follows a logical, chronological progression of events, so students showed better performance in producing narrative speech when using a storyboard. Therefore, I would like to understand more about its use in the classroom. For this study, I have two fundamental research questions. I wanted to know about the students' perceptions of the use of storyboard and the elements of the storyboard that contribute to the effectiveness of using it in the classroom. As an introduction to storyboard, an article by Holzbach in Bayer 2017 stated that a storyboard is an illustrated step-by-step presentation describing how people will perform a target activity using your new product concept. This is in line with the study by Wickstrom in 2013, in which he stated that the way of explaining verbal stories by with frame-by-frame sketches like storyboard is a way of explaining the story's narrative for the entire production team involved in making film. And according to Wright, we predict, deduce, and infer not only from what we hear and read, but what we see around us and from what we remember from having seen. Pictures are not just an aspect of method, but through their representation of places, objects, and people, they are essential part of the overall experiences we must have our students to cope with. So, to acquire the data needed for this study, I used three research instruments: a video of a recorded lesson, its transcription, and also a Likert scale questionnaire. The instruments were analyzed by means of thematic and descriptive analysis. So, the findings suggest that the plot arrangement in one linear direction makes it easy for students to organize their ideas. Image captioning or screen text helps students improve the quality of image understanding. Facial expressions of characters in the storyboard help them in understanding the emotions of the character. The students claim that the students of the storyboard was able to increase their ability in comprehending and describing subjects in the storyboard, in which the drawings in the storyboard help them to plan the narrative of the event shown. Now, we are coming to the end. Is it effective? Is the use of storyboard in the teaching of speaking skills is effective? A clear presentation of images in storyboard helps in understanding the flow of the event shown in the storyboard. As mentioned, in the teaching of speaking skills, it is important for the students to understand the manner in which the speaking tasks need to be responded for a better flow of speeches. I hope this would help people, especially in the community of teachers, to be benefited from deciding which visual medium is best to be used in the classroom for teaching narrative speech in the teaching of speaking skills. That's all from me, thank you.
Next presenter, Muhammad Azamuddin bin Muhammad Zulkifli with his final year project titled Issues and Challenges of Time Management in Online Teaching.
Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. My name is Muhammad Azamuddin Zulkifli, a final year student from University Pendidikan Sultan Idris, majoring in teaching English as second language. So the purpose of this video is to present the titles, and the contents of my final year project paper. Before we go any further, the title of my project paper is The Issues and Challenges of Time Management in Online Teaching. This study was done under the supervision of Dr. Noaini binti Zulkifli from Faculty of Language and Communication in UPSI. So the purpose of this research is to identify the issues and challenges of time management in online teaching session by the teacher. The first research objective is to identify the factors that influence the teacher's time management in an online teaching session. And for the second one is to overcome the challenges the teacher and the students face in an online teaching session. Moving on to the research questions. Uh, the research question of my study are: what are the issues and challenges which are being faced while teaching online? And the second one is which factor influence the time flow of the conducted lessons? So for the literature reviews of my research, I have written about the time management and online teaching. So for the time management, most of the reference were referred to Sahito, and for the online teaching, the source varies for multiple researchers, talking about the advantages and the technology used in online teaching sessions. Um, so the issues and challenges that have been identified from the research, there are four issues and challenges. The first one will be the students' time management. Second one would be the communication between the teachers and the students. The third one is the feedback, and the last is the students' attendance. So the methodology that have been applied in this particular research was the quantitative method and the use of descriptive and predictive analysis. And the instruments that were used for this research paper are the teacher's reflective entry, teacher's recording video, and the video's transcription. And these instruments thus provide evidence to support the issues and challenges that were stated in the research paper. So the moving on to the conclusions, the implication on education's community for the research is that teachers need to acquire excellent time management skills. And as for the recommendation for future practice is to establish a good relationship with the students. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Next presenter, Siti Nur Hazlinda binti Muhammad Fuad with her final year project titled Teachers Questioning Technique in ESL Classrooms.
Assalamualaikum and hi, I be to all panels, the lecturers who joined this e-conference. My name is Siti Nur Hazlinda binti Muhammad Fuad and my metric number is D2018-1082593 and my supervisor is Associate Professor Dr. Maizatulisa binti Muhammad. And today I'm going to present my FYP with the title Teachers Questioning Technique in ESL Classrooms. Okay, let's move on to the next section of this research, which is about the introduction of the research. First, I'm going to start with the research purpose. The purpose of this research being conducted is because the researcher want to identify questioning technique used by the trainee teacher in a ESL classroom during teaching practice 1, which is observed from the recorded teachings. And for the problem statement, based on the recorded teaching by the teacher during teaching practice 1, it can be seen that students did not answer some of the questions asked by the teacher. The teacher had to call their names to earn some responses. Many factors can contribute to this undesirable situation to emerge in an ESL classroom, and one of them is teachers' questioning technique. Therefore, this research will expose the questioning technique employed by the teacher, and that questioning technique is then to be compared with the guideline proposed by Esther Fasco steps in questioning cycle. Okay, these are my research objective and research question. My research objective 1 is to identify the questioning technique used in the ESL classrooms. And my second objective is to compare and contrast the technique used with the guideline steps in questioning cycle proposed by FASCO 2012. And then my research question, the first one is, what is the questioning technique used in the ESL classrooms, and how is the technique used similar or different from the guideline? Okay, then let's move on to my literature review. So these three are the most prominent figures in my literature review. They are Haoyang, Whelan, and Fasco. Haoyang said that an effective English class should contain the interaction between teachers and students, and the core of this interaction is teachers' questioning strategies. And William mentioned that questioning techniques serve as a guide for the teacher to plan and ask in the classroom, and it provides a framework for interaction with students. Meanwhile, Fasco mentioned that to create an interactive classroom that supports creative and critical thinking, teachers must have questioning strategies. Okay, moving on to the next section of this presentation, which is I'm going to explain about sample and research design. The sample is me myself, I am the researcher and I am the teacher. The data is obtained from my recorded teachings and my reflective entries during teaching practice 1. And research design chosen for this research is case study. These two are my research instruments. The first one being recorded teachings, which were transcribed by the researcher for data purpose. And the second one is teachers' reflective entries. Okay, this is the first page of my findings, which going to answer my first research question, which is what is the questioning technique employed by the trainee teacher during teaching practice 1? So after analyzing the transcription, I have come up with a flow chart, which is this flow chart is the Chinese teacher questioning technique. The first one being planning question. Planning questions start during the process of making lesson plan. And then the steps below are observed from the recorded teaching. The second step is asking questions. And the third step is the wait time. And then the fourth step, teacher listen to students' response. And then the last step is teacher assess the response. So these are the comparison between two techniques, which is going to answer my second research question. It seems like teachers' questioning technique and FASCO step in questioning cycle is pretty similar, except for the last two steps, which is wait time and the follow-up question. So my problem statement is that student did not answer teacher's question. It's not because the questioning technique. I think it's because the type of question asked by the teacher. So after done with this research, I have come up with a conclusion, which is teachers' questioning technique is essential to produce a good teaching. That's all from me. Thank you.
Next presenter, Faiza Binti Lazim, with her final year project titled The Use of Pictures to Improve Students' Engagement in an Online ESL Classroom.
Greetings to all lecturers and my fellow friends. My name is Faiza Binti Lazim and my matric number is D20181082654. The title of my final year project paper is The Use of Pictures to Improve Students' Engagement in an Online ESL Classroom, and my supervisor is Dr. Aradin. This is the introduction. The research problem is the researcher experienced an issue in the first week of teaching practice where it is hard to improve students' engagement in the lesson. There are two research objectives. The first one is to investigate the significance of using pictures as a teaching aid by considering its effectiveness to improve students' engagement in an online ESL classroom and identify UPSI's pre-service teachers' perception regarding the use of pictures in their lesson. There are two research questions. The first one is what are the significance of using pictures as a teaching aid to improve students' engagement in an online ESL classroom? The second one is what are UPSI's pre-service teachers' perception regarding the use of pictures in their lesson? Here's the literature review. Research findings about the use of pictures in teaching. According to Wright and S. Hallam, pictures play a significant part in the development of students' talents. According to Stiati 2016, students fared better with photos than with YouTube. According to Ali 2014, Ashrifan 2015, Kaur et al. 2017, Sasrika and Jusmulati 2017, and Stiati 2016, students' interest, motivation, and attitudes can be improved by using pictures. According to Ashrifan 2015, people who thought with visuals perform better in writing than those who were taught in a controversial manner. All these research findings prove that using pictures in teaching is beneficial in improving students' engagement. These are the research findings about students' engagement. Student engagement is developed through interaction, according to Anderson 2003, and fostering interaction is important in online learning. According to Glossary of Education Reform, student engagement refers to the degree of attention, curiosity, interest, optimism, and passion that students show when they are learning or being taught, which extends to the level of motivation they have to learn and progress in their education. These are the research instruments. The first one is video recording, which is used to observe the use of pictures in an online ESL classroom. It is also used to observe the responses given by students when pictures were used in the lesson. For the interview questions checklist, it is used to identify UPSI's pre-service perceptions regarding the use of pictures in an online ESL classroom. These are the method of data analysis for video recording transcription and interview data. For the video recording transcription, students' responses in the transcription were highlighted and analyzed based on the number of responses. The responses were only highlighted in the stage where pictures were used, the set induction and pre-lesson stage. For the interview data, each responses received by UPSI's pre-service teachers was transcribed in a table. The keywords were highlighted using an indigo highlighter. This is the example of data analysis. This is data analysis for video recording transcript. The number of responses indicated that pictures are able to improve students' engagement in an online ESL classroom. As you can see here, there are two color indicators, yellow and green. Yellow is for the set induction. There are 12 responses given. Meanwhile, for the pre-lesson stage, there are 3 responses given. This is the data analysis for interview data and the example of how the interview data was analyzed. Pictures are common teaching aids used during the lesson. To summarize, pictures are useful in gaining students' interest, support the lesson's delivery of content, and suitable to be used in a place with no internet connection. However, pictures also have their own limitations, which is static and do not have interesting animations like videos. This is the discussion of findings. Pictures are highly beneficial for teachers to teach their students in class, especially when students live in rural area where the internet connectivity is not good. Pictures are effective teaching aids to improve students' engagement, but at the same time, it also has its own limitations. The pictures shown in class influence students' engagement, so teachers must be smart in selecting the images that are familiar to them. Using pictures does not guarantee immediate understanding, so teachers have to use different techniques to gain their understanding. This is the conclusion. It is the teacher's duty to know their students' interests. Pictures has its own limitations in making students understand the lesson, but it can outweigh the negatives, especially during online learning, where internet connectivity is an unavoidable issue. That is all from me. Thank you.
Next presenter, Nur Atika Mat Arus, with her final year project titled The Implementation of Teaching Aids in Teaching and Learning to Increase Students' Engagement.
Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. My name is Nur Atika from Semester 7 Bachelor of Education in Teaching English as Second Language from UPSI. Today, I will be presenting my final year project entitled The Implementation of Teaching Aids in Teaching and Learning to Increase Students' Engagement. Based on my experience of Latihan Mengajar 1, the teaching and the learning processes were conducted virtually. Since it was an online learning, I find it difficult to grab students' attention. I believe that teaching tools is one of the elements that plays an important role in getting the students to engage with the lesson. The aim of this research is to increase student engagement by implementing teaching tools in teaching and learning. The objectives of the research are to identify the types and the reasons of teaching aids used by teachers and to look into the effectiveness of teaching aids. There are two research questions. The first one is, what are the types and the reasons of teaching aids used by teachers? The second one is, how effective are the teaching aids used by teachers? For this research, interviews were conducted to achieve qualitative data, which is to answer the first research question. There are 3 teachers of Sekolah Kebangsaan Perubahan Methodist were interviewed, and a total of 7 questions were asked during the interview. Apart from that, questionnaires were distributed to a group of teachers to achieve qualitative data, which is to answer the second research question. The questionnaire consists of 50 participants and it was constructed aligned with the research objectives and research questions to achieve a specific information. Based on the findings, there are 2 types of teaching aids, which are the modern teaching aids and the traditional teaching aids, and most of the teachers prefer to use the modern teaching aids rather than the traditional teaching aids. Not only that, the modern teaching aids suit the needs of the students of this generation. Students nowadays are very excited when teachers incorporate something related to technology. When teachers use modern teaching aids, the students will show more interest towards the lesson instead of just depending on the traditional teaching aids. From the finding, I also found out that the usage of teaching aids could lead to active learning and also can increase students' engagement. This is because most of the teaching aids can attract students' attention towards the lesson and it is also engaging. Before I end this presentation, let me talk about the implications of the research. This research not only benefits the teachers but also the students. Teachers will have more choices of teaching aids to be used in the class, while the students will get the chance to explore their teaching styles and preferences. That is all from me. Thank you.
Next presenter, Tan Peng Hung, with his final year project titled A Study on the Pre-Service Teachers' Instruction Giving Skills, Online ESL Classrooms.
Greetings and a very good day to the viewers. I am Tan Peng Hong. The title of my final year project is A Study on Pre-Service Teachers' Instruction Giving Skills in Online ESL Classrooms. And this project is carried out under the supervision of my lecturer, Madam Noor Alia Amira binti Kaswadi. So, without further ado, let's start off with the introduction. First and foremost, the focus topic of this project is instruction giving skills. Instruction giving is considered one of the fundamental aspects of teaching practice. The problem identified in this study is the researcher myself often noticed that the students were not clear with the instructions given in the classroom based on the experience of the first session of teaching practicum, which helps me to come up with the research objectives. They are to identify the types of instruction giving skills utilized by the pre-service teachers and to examine their performance of those skills in online ESL classrooms. In relation to that, the research questions are: what are the types of instruction giving skills utilized by the pre-service teachers in online ESL classrooms, and how well are the instruction giving skills performed by the pre-service teachers in online ESL classrooms? Next, I will proceed with the literature review in this study. First of all, from past researches and journal articles such as Kohn et al. 2014, Sowell 2017, and Gonzalez 2017, it can be identified that among the discussed good instruction giving skills are such as gaining students' attention, using simple language and speaking clearly, using the target language, explaining and demonstrating, as well as checking students' understanding. Besides that, based on studies, for instance like Sowell 2017 mentioned that mastering instruction giving is a fundamental aspect of a good classroom teaching practice. Moreover, Alkema 2019 pointed out that when students are facing difficulties or having hard times in understanding the knowledge taught, it is mainly due to the problems in the instructions given by the teachers. Furthermore, Maria and Shipakli 2020 highlighted that giving good instructions is merely not a skill that teachers can naturally acquire, as it requires a great deal amount of time, practice, and experience. Next, moving on to the research methodology. The research design employed in this study is towards the approach of descriptive qualitative. While the participants of this study are the pre-service teachers who are also the undergraduate bachelor's degree of TESOL. They are made up of 3 females and 2 males. As for the research instruments used, they are classroom observation checklists, classroom video recordings, as well as transcription. And the classroom observation checklist used is actually adapted from Shomoji Thought 2012. As you can see on the screen, they are the first column, which contains the 14th instruction giving skills. The second column is the presence of the instruction giving skills, and the third column is the performance of the instruction giving skills, clear, moderate, or unclear. And then the last column is the justification of the performance of those skills. Now let's jump into the research findings. The findings in respect to Research Objective 1 and Research Question 1 show that out of the 14 instruction giving skills, both samples 1 and 5 used 12, sample 2 used 9, sample 3 used all, as well as sample 4 used 10. Then the findings in respect to our Research Objective 2 and Research Question 2 show that the 3 most lacking performance of instruction giving skills among the 5 samples of pre-service teachers are eye contact, hand or body gestures, and demonstrating. Last but not least, the pedagogical implication for this research is to raise awareness among the pre-service teachers to acknowledge the importance of instruction giving and its skills in the classroom and as a part of teaching practice. That's all from me. Thank you very much for listening.
Next presenter, Esmeralda Eleanor Anakrobos, with her final year project titled The Use of Wait Time to Maximize Learners' Verbal Involvement in ESL Classroom.
Good day everyone, my name is Esmeralda Eleanor. Today I will be presenting my final year project entitled The Use of Wait Time to Maximize Learners' Verbal Involvement in ESL Classroom, which is supervised under Dr. Noraini binti Zulkifli. So the problem statement of this study was due to the lack of students' participation. The teacher had to extend the wait time when asking questions to encourage them to participate more. The students tend to remain silent each time questions were posed to them. Therefore, the teacher breaks the silence at the end of that second of wait time by either elaborating the questions or providing them with answers. By giving the learners extended wait time, it will be able to decrease the lack of responses from the students. So there are 3 research objectives for this study. The 3 research objectives are to find the duration of wait time given by the teacher between the question posed and learner's answer, to investigate how the learner's responses differ based on the given duration of wait time by the teacher, and to explore to what extent wait time affects learners' verbal responses. This study aims to answer 3 research questions, which are: what are the durations of wait time allocated by the teacher?
between the question posed and learners' answers? How do the learners' responses vary according to the amount of wait time? And how do wait time affect learners' verbal involvement in the classroom? According to Almeida 2010, wait time allows learners to reflect on the teacher's statement and is vital for developing learners' thinking. There are two types of wait time 1 and wait time 2. Wait time 1 is the post-solicitation wait time, whereas wait time 2 is the post-response wait time. Dinsa 2010 stated that in a typical classroom, the period of wait time occasionally lasts longer than 1.5 seconds, but extending the period of silence for at least 3 seconds led to an increase of the length and accuracy of the learners' responses. In addition, a few students volunteered to give appropriate responses, lessening the number of I don't know as well as no answer responses. This study employed a qualitative research method. So in this study, the instruments used are video recording of a teaching, the transcription of the teaching video, and the teacher's reflective entry. So the transcription was analyzed based on the principle of conversation analysis, which focuses not only on the language produced by individuals in conversation, but also on the understanding and interpretation of the speakers of each other's utterances during the talk process. So this study specifically looked at the Form 4 students from a secondary school in Kuching, Sarawak. The findings for the first research question showed that the teacher implemented wait time in a range of 3 to 8 seconds. It means that the teacher extends the wait time with the student. In addition, it can be seen from the transcription that the students answered most of the teacher's questions. And then the second research question was answered by the data obtained from the transcription. From the data, it can be concluded that learners' responses were influenced by the length of the wait time. So in this extract, the usage of extended pauses seems to be associated with an increase in participation, as several students take the floor and provide a longer responses. So based on the teacher reflective entry, the teacher stated that the students became confident in responding to the question posed by the teacher when wait time strategy was implemented. The teacher believed that the use of wait time could actually contribute to learners' verbal participation in class. The data from the teacher's reflective entry showed that she noticed a positive change, that more students kept on volunteering to answer her question when they constantly engage with the teacher. As a conclusion, learners require time to consider the response as they wish to provide, as well as time to define how they want to express their response. Therefore, by observing the duration of wait time and how the learners responded to it, helps the teacher to think of suitable wait time to be provided to the students. This study may help teachers to overcome the students' lack of engagement in class that leads to their lack of motivation. And that is all from me. Thank you.
Next presenter, Nurul Atika binti Muhammad Sul with her final year project titled Increasing Students' Engagement in Class by the Materials Used During Class.
Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. My name is Nurul Atika binti Muhammad Zul and my FYP title is Increasing Students' Engagement in Class by the Materials Used During Class. The purpose of this study is to investigate the effectiveness of the material used by the teacher during the class in gaining the responses from the students. This study will also be focusing on helping the teacher in finding the suitable material to be used in ESL classroom. My research problem is students seem reluctant to participate in online class because they are not really responsive in class, and the teacher keep using the same material in online learning because there wasn't much that teacher can do, and because it was online learning, hence students are not really engaging in class. Okay, so the research questions for this study is why does students seem reluctant to do the activity given by the teacher, and the second question is does materials play the crucial part in getting more responses from the students, and the objectives for this study is to investigate the effectiveness of the material used by the teacher in gaining more responses from the students. And the second objective of this study is to increase students' engagement in class. Okay, so for literature review, teacher accomplished different pedagogical approach and different teaching method like behavioristic, cognitive, communicative during various activities according to the needs of the specific group of learners. Authentic materials enhance learners' understanding, thus it is recommended since it keeps learners interested. Materials could motivate learners, arouse their interest, and expose them to the real language in the world. From the finding, I can conclude that choosing the right material, for example, authentic materials such as newspapers and magazine articles, TV and radio broadcasts, daily conversations, meetings, documents, speech, and films. One of the most useful is the internet. Whereas newspapers and other materials date very quickly, the internet is continuously updated, more visually stimulating as well as interactive, and also the material used should suit with the students' proficiency, so it was easier for the teacher in gaining more responses from the students. Okay, so the methodology used in this study is in the qualitative method, and the instrument used in this study is the questionnaire and observation. Questionnaire is in Google Form survey, which is to survey the material used by the training teacher, and the observation is to observe the students. Okay, so for my data review, from the questionnaire survey that I have carried out on the trainee teachers, from the responses, majority of the trainee teacher use more than one material for their teaching, and the question on how many materials the trainee teacher use when teaching, majority of the responses said that they use more than one material for teaching, and the main material used is the textbook. For the question on how cooperative the students in their class is, majority of the training teachers said that the students are being cooperative in their class, and some are not really sure. And on the last question, majority of the training teachers think that proficiency could affect the student responses. Last but not least, to conclude my research, before finding or creating materials for your students to use during the class, you must also know your students' proficiency, because students' proficiency will also affect the responses during your class. This is because, for example, if you use a material such as a newspaper, and the newspaper happen to use a vocabulary that is quite difficult to understand, they will be less interested to learn on that day. This will also cause for you to receive less response than usual. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Next presenter, Magdalena Sundar Anakjamin, with her final year project titled The Use of Code Switching in ESL Classroom to Boost Students' Comprehension.
Hello everyone, my name is Magdalena Sundar Anakjamin, and today I would like to present about my FYP research, and the title of my research is The Use of Code Switching in ESL Classrooms to Boost Students' Comprehension. So let's move on to the purpose of this study. So the purpose of this study is to investigate the use of code switching and what impact can it bring to the students' learning. So there are two research objectives for this study. The first one would be to investigate how the application of code switching aids in student understanding. And the second one is to study the factors affecting the use of code switching in ESL classrooms. So as for the research question, there are two research questions of this study. So the first one is, how does the application of code switching aids in student understanding? And the second one is, what factors affecting the use of code switching in ESL classroom? So let's move on to the literature review. And according to Mayer's 2008, code switching is a linguistic expression typically used when learner of a second language incorporate parts of their mother tongue in their speech. And the speaker of code switching use code switching to alter, to control, and interpret situations as they see fit, as well as to express variation of meaning and personal purposes. And Cook 2001 states that teachers may utilize the first language to explain practices in order for the practices to be helpful to the students. And last one, according to Pramant and Taijasa 2016, code switching was advantageous to students' comprehension. It also tends to boost the pace of classroom education as teachers don't have to spend much time explaining to the student or searching for the simplest terms to clear up any misconception or any um, uh, misunderstanding that emerge. So let's move on to the methodology. So the research approach of the study is quantitative. The sampling that is being chosen for this study is the students from Form 1 to Form 5 on secondary school level. And the instrument that is being used in this study is questionnaire survey via Google Form, which consists of 15 questions related to code switching. For the findings, the students feel shy to speak and communicate in English, especially in speaking skills. And most of them uses their L1 to communicate in class with their friends and sometimes with the teacher. And the main factor that leads to the use of code switching in ESL classroom is the student. They seek for clarification of the subject matter in a language that they are familiar with or the language that they are fluent with. And also the student, they prefer to use code switching in speaking skill activities because they feel that they are more comfortable to express themselves and they can understand the lesson and the instruction clearly when the code switching is being implemented in ESL classroom. So for the conclusion, based on the finding of the research, it is clear that the application of code switching in ESL classroom helps to boost students' comprehension and help them to become more confident in communicating and speaking in English class. So my suggestion is that all of the English teachers in our country or in other countries should implement and apply the use of code switching in their ESL classroom as it can help the students to learn better, more in effective ways, and also code switching can be beneficial to both teacher and student. I think that is all from me. Thank you so much.
Next presenter, Nurul Huda binti Muhammad Sairi with her final year project titled Using Words of Encouragement as a Drive to Enhance Students' Participation in an ESL Classroom.
Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. My name is Nurul Huda binti Muhammad Sairi and today I would like to present my research project. The title of my project is Using Words of Encouragement as a Drive to Enhance Students' Participation in an ESL Classroom. It is crucial for teaching practitioners to maximize students' participation, which is greatly in demand to ensure an effective lesson and students' language acquisition as well as language input. Additionally, students who are actively participating in the classroom will learn more as they use their cognitive skills to process information. Hence, why the words of encouragement is brought into the study. What is words of encouragement? It can consist of positive reinforcement words such as good job and keep going that can uplift students' enthusiasm and motivation in language learning. Next is the problem statement. One of the main challenges in conducting an ESL classroom with the incorporation of 21st century learning is that it requires students' participation. In order to achieve an effective teaching and learning process in an ESL classroom, teachers need to amplify students' participation by using words of encouragement. Maintaining students' participation in the classroom is a universal problem that has revolved around teachers in schools. Based on my LM teaching experience, I faced several difficulties in conducting classes, which stems from lack of students' participation, and noticed that words of encouragement has effects on my students. Hence, I came up with this research title. This research was conducted based on the objectives as follows, which is to investigate the effects of using words of encouragement in students' participation in an ESL classroom and to identify the factors affecting students' participation in an ESL classroom. This research was conducted to answer the questions as follows, which is how does the use of words of encouragement increase students' participation in an ESL classroom, and what are the factors affecting students' participation in an ESL classroom. The research design of this study is library research. The research participants of this study are 24 students, which are made up of 40 females and 10 males. The targeted students have a beginner level of English proficiency and are comfortable in communicating in their own L1 outside English language, period. The instruments used in this study are teachers, reflective entry, and library studies. The findings of this research showed that the research questions have been answered successfully. It is proven that the use of words of encouragement increases students' participation in an ESL classroom by influencing students' motivation level, attitude, anxiety, and self-confidence, where teachers in classrooms play a major part in making sure students are reinforced positively with great attitude. This study also showed that there are multiple factors affecting students' participation in an ESL classroom, such as high anxiety level and peer pressure, where teachers have a role in a classroom to make sure students are learning in a conducive environment. Last but not least, the findings found that the effects and factors can influence students' language learning greatly. Moving on to the last part, which is the limitations, the research would have been more insightful and detailed if the teachers' reflective entries had more evidence that prove the students have immensely gained new interest in language learning by showing consistent classroom participation in the succeeding lesson or given more time to observe the effects on the students' language skills if it is improved greatly. That is all from me. Thank you.
Our final presenter, Wafa Iman binti Tajul Adnan, with her final year project titled Teaching Literature Among Apprentice Teachers in the ESL Online Classroom, Challenges and Solutions.
Assalamualaikum and a very good day. So my name is Wafa Iman binti Tajul Adnan. So for my FYP title, the title is Teaching Literature Among Apprentice Teachers in the ESL Online Classroom, Challenges and also Solutions. Okay, so the purpose of my research is to explore the challenges faced by the apprentice teachers when applying literature in the ESL online classroom, as well as to determine the solutions for the challenges faced by the teachers. So for my research objectives, the first one is to identify the challenges that are faced by the English apprentice teachers when applying literature in the online ESL classroom, and also to determine the solution received for the English apprentice teachers when applying literature in the online ESL classroom. So there are two research questions. So the first one are, what are the challenges that are encountered by the apprentice teachers when applying literature in the online ESL classroom, and also what are the solutions that can be done for the apprentice teachers when applying literature in the online ESL classroom. So in my FIP and the literature review is that this research contains of the definition of literature theory, and also literature review of apprentice teachers in an ESL online classroom. So for the methodology and also the instrument, I use surveys and also questionnaires Okay, so I've created 20 questionnaires, and the 20 questionnaires were distributed to 20% of TESOL students from UPSI who did undergo for school practicum 1 as an apprentice teachers. So there are a few findings that I found when I carried out my research. So the first one is that I found that only that 15.8% of the respondents on average found difficulties in teaching literature. The second one is 73.7% of the respondents on average need more exposure in teaching literature in an ESL online classroom. The third one is that 52.6% of the respondents on average are thinking critically on how to deliver the literature lessons successfully. And number 4, most of the respondents were having difficulties to find the right materials to teach literature in an ESL online classroom. So there are the findings of my research. Thank you.
We hope you have gained knowledge from our presenters. Please do join us for the closing ceremony that will begin in a few minutes. Thank you and see you there.